Hello there, and welcome to Geek Speak. My name is Nath, and this week I have been enjoying watching through Daredevil Born Again, the revival of my favourite superhero show ever. Without entering spoiler territory too far here, it is fair to say that the opening 10 minutes of the very first episode cements two undeniable facts. One, this is a show made as a loving continuation of the previous series, and two, the kid gloves are officially off and nothing is off limits. It's great when a franchise rises up from the media ashes like a big, licensed phoenix and manages to recapture the magic and imagination of its audience. Sadly, not every IP receives this treatment, as I am still holding out hope for a Star Wars Force Unleashed 3, which is most likely a hope in vain. But with that being said, there are some excellent revivals in the world of gaming, enough in fact that I can make a list feature about them. So without further ado, here are 7 games that reignited a series. First up this week is Tomb Raider, a game that borrows more than a little bit from the fantastic Uncharted series and takes everything that Uncharted made great to the extreme. This reimagining of Lara Croft is a grounded, gritty tale that is a feast for the eyes as you take on the titular Tomb Raider on a globe-trotting quest that would put Indiana Jones movies on notice. The gameplay here has a heavier focus on combat, stealth and exploration than the previous entries in the series, but without losing the puzzle platforming that has always been at the heart of the franchise. The standout improvement in this more mature version of everyone's favourite archaeologist is the storytelling, which is notably less cheesy and predictable than the original games. Lara is presented here as a morally complex character with depth and vulnerabilities, facing villains that, without getting into the spoilers, really up the stakes and make you root for her as somewhat of an underdog facing a survival horror onslaught of baddies, booby traps and bonkers platforming challenges. It sets the stage for the equally brilliant sequels Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider in what is and was a fine return to form for gaming's first lady. If you haven't yet experienced Zelda Breath of the Wild or its excellent sequel Tears of the Kingdom, stop this video now, go down to your local game store, buy a Nintendo Switch with this incredible open world RPG, and in about 50 hours time or so, you can give me a thank you in the comments. It is no understatement to say that this game is on par with the likes of Skyrim in terms of it being a once in a generation game, with its expansive and detailed world to explore, quests galore, and a sense of exploration never before seen in the Zelda series. Stepping far away from the original top-down dungeon style of gameplay, Breath of the Wild takes Link far into the wilds of Hyrule and puts him through the ringer in this excellent slice of action survival adventuring. The game takes a non-linear path of progression, and the freedom of choice this brings the player is a breath of fresh air in a sea of linear RPGs. You can play the game your own way and at your own pace while still experiencing one of gaming's most epic fantasy tales. Seriously, I'm not sponsored by Nintendo, I'm simply a nerd who urges you to play this game now. From one epic Nintendo RPG to another now, in the genre-altering Pokemon Legends Arceus. For decades, Pokemon games have all followed the same consistent few beats. You catch Pokemon in the tall grass, you train the Pokemon as you go from town to town, beating 8 gym leaders before taking on the Elite Four and eventually becoming the Pokemon League champion. Legends Arceus completely upends the status quo by being firstly set in the ancient past, in a time long before the Pokemon League ever existed. This is a wild and dangerous world, where wild Pokemon can attack trainers in the game's lavishly realised biomes, a world where feuding clans struggle for survival and dominance across the Sinnoh region. This is not the usual fluffy adventure about a kid from Pallet Town. It is a genius move by the development team at Game Freak, and one that has plenty to engage both old and new fans of the series, with familiar Pokemon to catch, but a brand new spin on how to catch them. Rather than encountering a wild Pikachu or Bulbasaur in a random tall grass encounter, you instead have to sneak up on them, stealthily, slowly, distracting them with, say, a well-placed rock or berry. You can't just rock up to a Pokemon to buy potions or Ultra Balls either, you have to collect the materials in the wilderness to craft them. The game is loosely inspired by the Safari Zone in the original Pokemon Red and Blue games. Legend Arceus is a refreshing take on the Pocket Monster formula, and one that for Game Freak has paid off beautifully. The original Crash Bandicoot trilogy is widely considered to be the benchmark for all PlayStation platforming. Sadly, every game featuring the orange marsupial and jorts that came after this terrific trifecta somewhat failed to recapture the magic of the original. That is until Crash 4 It's About Time dropped back in 2020 and set the platforming world on fire. Rather than trying to be a carbon copy of what came before, Crash 4 took brave new directions in its gameplay and gimmicks, while also managing to seamlessly blend it with its predecessors. The multiple playable characters, tons of unlockables, and sheer volume of ridiculously beautiful levels herein give this game a rich, replayable nature with hours upon hours of gem hunting, crate breaking, Wumpa Fruit filled action. There are no punches pulled here either, as true to his roots, Crash will put players through the absolute ringer as you try to 106% the game. Yes, canonically you need to get 106% and try, in my case fail, to get that elusive platinum trophy. The last few decades have been rather a mixed bag for everyone's favourite Blue Hedgehog. The series has never shied away from experimenting with different playstyles, having forayed into everything from kart racing, Olympic Games, massive open worlds, werewolves and genies, even to dipping its toes into a murder mystery puzzle game. Like I said, it's a mixed bag. Thankfully, for old schoolers like me who remember launching the little blue rodent down loop-de-loops in Sonic 3's Hydrocity Zone and dodging the two-dimensional nightmare machine that was Sonic 2's Metropolis Zone, Christian Whitehead Studios has just what the Doctor ordered, with the incredible retro-themed Sonic Mania. Featuring a mix of repurposed zones and some fantastic original new zones to play with, Sonic Mania is a love letter to the fans of the original 90s platformers who long for a needle-mouse shaped dose of nostalgia. The game released to an overwhelmingly positive critical reception and is to date one of the highest rated games in the entire franchise, proving that there's no school like the old school and that the blue blur has got lots left in the tank. When a series runs as long as Square Enix's Final Fantasy, there is a risk of the formula becoming stale and stagnant unless some out-of-the-box thinking is put in place to force the franchise to keep up with the times. Well, that is exactly what Final Fantasy XV did when it launched all the way back in 2016. With its more modern fantasy setting, flying cars, hybrid real-time combat, a first in the series, and of course an absolute banger of a main theme performed by the illustrious Florence and the Machine. Clad in black and looking very much like the warm-up act for a heavy metal festival, you take on the role of Prince Noctis, who with his three best mates embarks on an epic road trip across the kingdom in an attempt to rid it of evil. It's the classic Final Fantasy formula, but for a new generation of gamers. The game has a whole lot of side content on offer here too, with beasts to hunt, fish to catch, recipes to cook, and a whole lot of side questing to do. It was the skeletal blueprint for what the series has now become, with incredible storytelling from games like Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth, and of course the epic fantasy RPG world found in Final Fantasy XVI. If you have yet to play this one, I strongly recommend you pick it up as soon as possible. Set in 9th century Baghdad and featuring the long-awaited return to the series' stealth parkour roots, Assassin's Creed Mirage is a return to form from Ubisoft's most famous franchise. Everything here is stripped back to the very basics as you take Street Rat Basim on an epic journey to Master Assassin as he attempts to expunge the evil order of the Ancients from his world. The game takes a major step back from the series' more RPG-themed recent entries such as Odyssey and Valhalla, in favour of sneaking across rooftops and diving into haystacks in the game's impressively realised sandbox city. The story is short by modern standards, taking roughly 20 hours to finish if you rush it, but why would you rush it when it's this darn good? The game benefits massively from a more grounded and focused story. The combat feels as good as it did back in Black Flag, and it is, in my humble opinion, the course correction that this series needed. A point proven magnificently in the recently released and utterly phenomenal Assassin's Creed Shadows. Both of these are definitely worthy successors to the works of Altair and Ezio Auditore da Firenze. Enough said. And there we go, guys. Those are 7 games that, in my opinion, reignited a series. Are there any that you think that I missed? Why not comment them down below? If you enjoyed today's video, please do drop it a like, share it, and of course subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell to be alerted for whenever I go live with more of these list features and gameplay that is available on the channel also. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching, and until next time, stay safe, see you bye.